Over the past 5 years, I've supported countless coaches and creators to grow their business past the six-figure mark with organic content. And in this conversation, I've noticed that coaches and creators get hung up in one part of the process of marketing more than anything else. They overthink it, they spend too much time on it, and it takes them away from the income-producing activities in their business. If you're new to the channel, my name is Jeff Augustinelli. I am a guide, a storyteller, and a filmmaker. In this video, what I want to do is break down that core marketing problem and give you a framework to solve this in your business. My hope is in this video, you understand a core set of beliefs that can give you an idea of how to think about content and marketing that's maybe different from how you currently do, and a structure so that you can take the ideas that visit you, that nag you, that you know you need to create, and plug them in so that you can develop them and water the seeds of these ideas so that they mature into what they need to be. Now, in order to understand this framework, let's zoom out and take a 30,000 foot view of a coaching business. Now, fundamentally, if you look at your coaching business, you provide a service. And in providing that service, you are giving an individual a solution to a problem. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before if you've consumed any kind of marketing content to focus on your client avatar or to identify their core problems, all of these things. And I agree with all of that. And at the end of the day, there's one guiding principle that I have installed for myself, and I've also helped to instill in my clients that supported them to, in some ways, it seems as if the results that come to them via clients and new followers and engagement on their videos are somewhat miraculous. And for me, that one idea or belief is that I am the answer to someone's prayer. Now, if you think about the individual who's experiencing any kind of pain in their life where you have a solution to the problem that's causing that pain for them, most likely they are speaking to God or they're doing whatever it is they do and they are wanting a solution to their problem. For me, the dots connected when I finally started to see that there are forces on the invisible side of life always acting in my favor. Now, this doesn't mean that you're not going to go through the motions on the outside. However, it gives depth to the content that you create because you're coming from a new place of understanding. So believing that I am the answer to someone's prayer, that my service is the answer, it's answering the call on their heart, for me, gives my ideas more substance. Now, in addition to that, you have to look at content creation and ideation as a part of the business. I know for myself and for my clients as well, we can spend too much time in the content creation process, which can take away from generating new clients and being in the active process of engaging in conversations, and more importantly, delivering on the service we provide. So understanding how to balance these in your business, I'll do this in another video, but that's an important aspect as well. Now, drilling down a little bit deeper into this framework, I like to look at 4 different aspects when it comes to content and ideation. So let's unpack those 4 now. The first of these 4 is dealing with bigger concepts. Whether you're a transformational coach, a men's coach, an embodiment coach, or whatever it is that you do within your business, there are core tenets of the work that you do with people. There are core beliefs and values that you have as an individual. And being able to have a centralized location where you can implement these core concepts and develop them over time is important, because here's the reality. Most of us, and I've been guilty of this at times too, what we do is we get the idea and then we're like, I gotta create a video. I gotta put a reel out. I gotta put a carousel out. I'm gonna put this on my story. And then the idea gets given before we accept it. Now, I believe that when ideas come to us, they come in the form of inspiration, they come in the form of whatever it is, but they come as a seed. And it's our job to be with that seed long enough, to put it in the soil, to water it, to give it sunlight, so that it can develop into the mature plant that it needs to be. Now, I know the analogy is not exact, but hear me on this, is that giving a gift before it's developed won't do what it's intended to do. So working within these broader concepts, for instance, as an example, I've had clients that are men's coaches. And some of these men's coaches will entertain the idea of the nice guy syndrome being a problem that men experience. They can develop entire concepts and frameworks and ideologies and ways of thinking about this particular problem that can be baked into videos, into content, into messaging, and all of these different areas. But if it's just taken at surface value and it's just put out there as a nice guy syndrome, it lacks the depth that it would have that if you understand that it's usually people pleasing, or that there's certain aspects of that individual where that problem of being the nice guy shows up as certain behaviors. So developing concepts is one area where you can understand how to take the idea that's going to go into your content and develop it more. So when it comes time to create that idea and put that into the video or put that into the post, the person that needs to hear it receives the substance that you've put into it. Now, the next part of this framework that's important to understand is format. Now, whether you're creating for Instagram in short form content at this point in time, up to 3 minutes for a reel, maybe it's going to turn into a post or a carousel, or if you're going to put it on your story. Maybe you have something that's a little bit more longer format, like a newsletter, or you're publishing on some other platform like Medium, or maybe it's a YouTube video. If you understand your format, you're going to be a better creator. If you're just creating short form content in the form of a post or in the form of a reel for Instagram or even a carousel, chances are if you're made as a long form content creator, you're going to feel more anxious creating short form content. I ran into this challenge myself, and in 2023, I had grown my business to just shy of 200K by just producing a buttload of reels over that year and having under 4,000 followers. But at the end of the year, I realized I don't want to be on this content creation hamster wheel because I don't feel like it's giving me the service that it needs to of being with ideas long enough in order to create bigger bodies of work. There's also certain advantages to long form that you can't get out of short form. Like the life cycle of content is longer in a longer format. And you can also take a longer format and chunk it down into shorter. So when it comes to format, you have to understand what it is you lead with. It's also the medium, right? So if you're in video or if you're in the written word, you're going to treat your ideas differently. If you're creating video, you're going to see the frames, you're going to see the shots, you're going to understand how to create an atmosphere that you're conveying through video. And if you're doing it through the written word, you're going to think about your ideas differently and flush them out in writing instead. Now, this third aspect of the framework, I believe, is where most of us are slacking immensely, and it's contributing to a lazy content economy, where there's so much half-baked content, repurposed ideas, because they lack this one thing, and that's critical thinking. Whether you're doing this in an intellectual sense, or you're doing it more of a spiritual sense where you're meditating on an idea or praying on an idea, it's one of those things where if you're not giving an idea enough time where you can wrestle with it, understand how it applies to your life, exercise it with your clients, and really wrestle with it to the degree that it needs to be shaped and formed, then again, it will lack substance. Now, critical thinking isn't always just thinking through something, but it comes to the application. So when you're thinking through concepts and you're understanding your format, when you're looking at it critically, you're also understanding, does this lend itself better to a video or to something in writing? When you're looking at it critically, you're saying, does this concept actually provide value to the person watching it? Or is it more of a selfish idea where I'm just telling something and not actually conveying anything with any meaning or value? It gives you the ability to see what it is that you share through the lens of, is this providing value? Through the lens of, does this actually align with the person who it's meant for? That is going to be the person I can support to solve their problems with the solution I have. Because if it doesn't fit into your content ecosystem and it just seems like a good idea and you haven't passed it through that critical thinker, chances are you're going to be on the content hamster wheel in a way where you're going to feel burnt out and you're going to feel as if you're not operating in your zone of genius, and you may not even feel like yourself anymore. So when it comes to critical thinking, the part here is to be okay wrestling with ideas. Be okay being with something long enough and not feeling this incessant need to just regurgitate or vomit ideas fast enough so that you can keep up with the daily posting schedule. The fourth and last aspect of this framework is one of my personal favorites, and that's let the dust settle. So many times we can overwork a painting, where we can dig up the seed when it needs to be watered. Right? Like I'm sure you've heard this story before where the child plants the seed, and then they go to dig up the seed to see if it's growing, but in the process, they kill the plant. And so letting the dust settle means letting the environment of the idea rest. That may mean that you work something out and you have, let's say you have a newsletter that you post on Mondays. Start writing it on Wednesday, start writing it on the Monday before. Let the dust settle each day so that you can be with the idea, go out and do your life, do your business, do the world, and then come back with fresh eyes. There's magic that happens not only neurologically, but there's magic that happens with the idea when we let it rest instead of needing to constantly work it to force it to make it move faster. Part of this is understanding that every idea has a life cycle. And I believe that every idea does. Because if it didn't, it would just be meant to be regurgitated. And we know that that doesn't work that way. So understanding that there is value in letting the dust settle and letting something mature will allow the idea to become what it needs to be. Now, one of the ways that I stay organized is with my creator dashboard. And if you're yet to pick up this Notion dashboard, you can get the link in the comments. And this is the way that I organize all my ideas, whether it's for individual pieces of content or for ideation and concepts. Having a centralized location where I can go to grab all my ideas when I have those blocks of creation time has made all the difference in the world in giving me the ability to draw from a bank where there's deposits that have been made, so to speak, instead of having to start from scratch every time. The reality of being a coach or creator is that sometimes it exposes our bad habits. It makes us see where we're wasting time or where we're spending time in one place when we should be spending it in another. This system has been really supportive for me in getting a handle on some of the more complex concepts and ideas and being able to drive them through to completion and finally produce them in the form of videos or posts or newsletters. If you found today's video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you get notified when new videos go live. Until next time, see you soon.